I live here my life. I stay strong, I stay wise. I live here my life. I stay strong, I stay wise. I live here my life. While we
Well, hello. Our Patrice Bryant here. Welcome, Facebook, welcome, YouTube, and welcome to all of my podcast listeners. It's a great day to be alive. I'm so glad you're here today, and I am excited about this segment. I hope you were with us on last week, and I hope you enjoyed Dawn Marcotte, Fadette McRae, and Rachel Cunningham Xavier. It was a very fun time as we spoke about extroverts and introverts. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. It was a great segment. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it. You can go to my While We Wait page, or you can go to YouTube, look up R. Patrice Bryant, and the name of that topic is, again, extroverts and introverts. It's amazing. Well, we are here today, and we have an amazing guest. We have Mr. Christopher Robinson. Great day to you. Great day to you. We've got Christopher Robinson, who's the author of Come On, Man. I am so excited about this. I love hearing what the men have to say because it helps us as we relate to our brothers, our fathers, our love interest husbands, so on, our sons, nephews, and so on. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Chris on so we can have a wonderful chat with him. All right, here we go. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, Patrice. How are you this afternoon?
I am doing well. Thank you so much. I'm so excited that you're here with me today.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
You as well. You know, I have to say publicly, I so enjoyed speaking with you on Zoom. It was just like an immediate connection. Kindred spirit. I love what you had to say, and I love what you represent. So again, welcome and thank you so much.
Well, that's what makes it special for me to be here. I felt that connection too. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Chris, this is a great topic. I love this. You know, I want you to tell us about yourself, but I just want to say I'm so glad you do what you do because women, we talk. We'll talk to our girlfriends or even our guy friends. One of the things about women is we have a way of getting it out of us, or, we're going to share it or bounce it off of someone. But right. I've noticed that a lot of times, and as I was looking, good day to you, Richard. I've noticed that for a lot of guys, and especially if they're not trained to communicate, they will, as you, and I quote you, they sometimes struggle silently. So I am so glad you do what you do. And your journey, Chris, is amazing.
It's taken a few turns.
Yes. And yes, you spent 35 years in the construction industry. Tell us about that life up until now as you've made that turn into your new career.
Yeah, as you said, I was 35 years in the construction industry. With a focus on major projects being done across the nation. And in that industry, it's definitely male dominated.
Sure.
And so I would encounter men on the projects. I would encounter men in the office that are struggling with some things. And at the same time, I was involved in my church and the men's ministries there.
Sure.
And did some men's retreats within our communities. And what I found on those retreats is that men so badly needed an outlet to do exactly what you say the women have done, and that is to talk.
Yeah.
Because culturally, societally, we are trained to suppress feelings, emotions. We can actually be ridiculed if we do express feelings and emotions. Absolutely. Especially in the industry that I came out of. It's, a very macho presentation is made, but there's a lot going on within every individual person. And that was really coming out on some of these men's retreats.
Sure.
where I would be a speaker and a table leader and wind up with men just breaking down crying.
Wow.
Over things that they have stored up about their perceived failures, not living up to expectations of their family, of their work, not being happy in what they do anymore, and just pressing all of it down and getting up and doing it all over again the next day, pressing it down. And it's like, the Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Right. So I started praying when I was about 50. Transparency, I'm 61. So I started praying when I was about 50 about where God would be leading me at retirement. And I prayed over it for a couple of years, and received the answer that counseling was what I was being called into. And so I opened up my computer to see, okay, what's involved in doing that? It said, well, you have to go back for a master's degree, and then you have to do a practicum practice, and then you have to do a 3,000-hour internship, and then you have to get licensed nationally. Okay. I just shut my computer down and see, God, we've had a serious misunderstanding. This was not designed to be difficult. I can understand that. How are you going to make this happen, God, so that I don't have to work for it? And I literally went back to another year of prayer because I was not satisfied with where I had been led. Okay. But after that year of absolute relentlessness on God's part, it became very clear that, this is what I need to do. It's what I'm going to do. And I cried out, Uncle, and said, okay, I'll do what I need to do. He's got a way of doing that. Yeah. So that led me on the journey back into a master's degree. And long story short, here I am today with my own practice, focused on men. It was never my intention to write a book. But all of my professors and other professionals said, men's counseling is needed so badly, but you can't make a living doing that because men don't come to counseling. That wasn't a concern for me. I had been fortunate in the construction industry and in my success there. And so I definitely wasn't doing this for the money. But I came to realize that there are struggles that all men have in common. And I just started listing those out one day on a sheet of lined paper. And I looked at that list, and essentially that list became the chapters of the book. I just started writing about all of those issues, and they became a book. So the title is Come On, Man. Now, you have told me where that title came from, but let's let our audience know some of the inspiration for the title and why the title. Yeah. So the title comes, if you remember back to the days of Chris Berman on ESPN. And I come from an athletic background, and I was always watching ESPN, and I loved the segment that he did called Come On, Man. And it was basically a replay of the bloopers of these professional athletes, these masters of their craft, right? Who would let a baseball roll between their legs, or who would intercept a football and continue running with it into the wrong end zone. You name it. He had it covered. And at the end of each of those clips, it was the typical, come on, man. And I loved that. But I started thinking about that as I sat here and I looked at the struggles that we deal with and said, you know what? We experience ridicule in our lives when we make mistakes, when we express feelings and emotions. And I could just see myself sitting in the film room the Monday after the game and having that coach replay that mistake over and over and over again, and then go home and see it being replayed nationally as well. So I thought, what if we took that come on man ridicule, that mockery, and we turned it around and made it an invitation to connect. Say, come on, man.
Come on.
We all have the same struggles, right?
I love that.
And that's what this is about. The subtitle is Taking on the Challenges Faced by Men.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I intended for this book to do is say, hey guys, we're in the same boat. We are dealing with the same struggles. I don't care where you come from, what your background is. Up here, we are all having the same questions of ourselves, the same self-doubt, the same struggles about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, or maybe even the regrets over what we did do, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that it's so important to create connection among men. As you say, connection is created among women so that men can deal with their struggles in a healthier way.
Yes.
Reduce stress, reduce medical problems, reduce the heart attacks,
Yes.
and really treat ourselves and each other better.
I love that. I have a question, and let me first just want to go back to Facebook and YouTube. If you can like and share this information with your favorite guys, our brothers, our uncles, our nephews, our fathers, spouses, share this information. I want to send this out to every male that I can because I hear what Chris is saying, and I've also experienced. I see how sometimes men, suppress things, and yeah. So my question is, and thank you again to my podcast viewers for being here. I'm here with Chris Robinson, who's the author of Come On Man. Please make sure you copy the link and share it with someone that you love. Yeah, and even share it with women because I have a question as a woman. Because it's so easy for us to, and I've heard this, and it's not something that I do. I can't honestly say it's not something that I don't think sometimes, but sometimes things happen in regards to a guy, and you just want to go, come on, man up. You're a man. You're supposed to. And I, in my head, but what as women, Chris, what can women do to support this? I mean, I know there are some things that men have to resolve themselves, but as a support to any man, whether it be it a son, brother, nephew, what can women do to support with this?
Well, I think one thing is to realize that we as human beings are all complex creatures, right? We have a lot of similarities and we have some dissimilarities, but understanding that the emotions that men feel are the same as the emotions that women feel.
Okay.
And I think understanding that, as I said from the start, we are trained as men not to express
True.
those emotions, right? And so what we're dealing with here is something that has gone on for generations and generations, thousands of years, right? This is in our genetic code.
Yes.
Now. It's who we are.
Yes.
And so I think that it's important for women to understand that when men are not sharing, when men are not stepping up or doing the things they can, number one, it could be as a result of self-doubt, that there's an insecurity about what they're going to do. They might be concerned about not getting it just right. And so there's a fear of doing some things.
Sure.
So I think it's really important to make safe spaces for men
That's good.
to talk about why maybe they feel unable to do something or why they haven't done something, and talk about it, because there is that tendency to say, "Come on, man,
Yeah.
step up,
Absolutely.
be a man, do what you're supposed to do, lead." Right?
It's true.
But I think that sometimes when that's not happening, what's really helpful is to say, you know what, here's what I need from you.
Okay.
And if there's anything that prevents you from doing that, including if it's me, let's talk about it.
I love that.
Right? Because until that door is opened, until that invitation is made, you're just going to meet a closed door.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I think when it comes to sharing our feelings and emotions, we've been taught not to do that. So we need to be given permission to do that.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Especially, men don't cry, and we teach our baby boys that, and they grow up with that. That's just one of the many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. We're
That's
told
good.
to suck it up from the time we're old enough to walk. When we start
That's
walking and we fall, you get up.
That's so true.
We might, as a father of girls, I might have gone and picked up my daughter and helped her stand back up.
True.
With boys, we say, get back up.
That's true.
We're not going to help you.
Wow. That is so true. So I believe it's in the introduction, you talk about, there's a story that you tell about Beanie Babies. And I
Yes.
believe that was a story with your youngest daughter. That's a great story. If you can just share that and the concept or what you got out of that experience. I thought that was great.
Yeah. So this was, as I said, I did projects across the country. And so we were moving from Tennessee back to Texas. And this was in probably the early 90s when this Beanie Baby craze was out. And I mean, it was a craze.
It was huge.
Yeah. And so my girls at the time were probably 6 and 8. And my 6-year-old had a whole plastic trash sack full of Beanie Babies for this move, right? And she was fearful during this move that her Beanie Babies would get lost. And so she did not want the movers to take her Beanie Babies. I was going down ahead of the family because I had work to do. I was going to be a few weeks ahead. So she put all these Beanie Babies into this huge plastic bag. I don't know, there must have been in there, and said, Daddy, will you take this with you and keep them safe? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So, I brought them down with me. I drove the car down to Texas. I was all set up. And then when it came time to move the family back, well, I drove to the airport in Texas. I flew back to Tennessee to drive back with the family. We went by the airport to get the car. And I got out, was going directly to work from there. And when I was at work that day, and I think came out for lunch or at the end of the day, I realized that the back lock of my Suburban had been broken. And I looked at it, and some of the things that were still in the car, because I had to move out of an apartment, load up the car, leave it at the airport, everything was there except that bag of Beanie Babies. And I mean, the pit in my stomach, I had one job to do. As far as my baby girl was concerned, I had one job to do. And I failed. And I just felt absolutely so terrible. I had to go home that night, and I looked her in the eye, and I was just honest with her. I said, baby, I'm sorry. The Beanie Babies were taken from the car. We don't have them anymore. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, it's okay. It's only stuff. And I was just like, wow. That blew me away.
Yeah.
That she could have so much more insight related to this than me, that she could understand where her values really lie. And her values lied in the relationship that she had with me and with her sister and her mother. Everything else could be taken away. And as long as she had us, she had her core value intact.
Yeah.
And so that leads into that idea of exploring our values and knowing what they are. And as men, we need to do that because we have a tendency to just go through life thinking we understand what's important.
Mhm.
But until we really dig deep and evaluate ourselves, we haven't taken the time or given it the work it deserves to recognize, okay, this is what we value. Therefore, I'm going to set my goals based upon my values, and I'm going to make all of my decisions based upon those goals. Everything is rooted in values. And it was my daughter, Alyssa, who reinforced that for me when she was 6 years old.
I think it also showed an element of um, the weight and pressure that one puts on themselves or men put on themselves. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but even though it was a Beanie Baby, that was a certain level of pressure because this is my responsibility to get these Beanie Babies from point A to point B.
Yeah, because to me, it was just Beanie Babies, no problem. To her, it was her world, her toys are her,
Sure.
with children, their toys are their connection, their way of learning to socialize. And this was her community, these
Mhm.
Beanie Babies. And I recognized what I had done is I had lost her community. But what she recognized is she hadn't lost her family.
Yes, that's great. So, out of all of the chapters, which chapter in your book um, best resonates with you, or do you feel is like most beneficial?
Oh, I guess it depends on where you are in your life. But for me, I think that two chapters together, and that's why I started with them. One is on exploring values, and the second chapter is on life balance.
Hmm.
And I think that unless we've gone through this rigorous examination of our values, then we never gain a sense of balance in our life because we have not determined what our priorities are, right? I can't just say that my work and my family are equally important because we can't serve two masters, right? Something's going to give.
Yeah.
Something's going to give. And as it turned out for me, part of my story is that I was with this company doing national projects for 17 years. And one day, when the leadership of the company had changed, they just did a complete rotation of management. The existing managers were out, and the managers that this guy had been used to working with at his old company came in. And I recognized at that point in time that I had identified myself with my job, with my career, not as husband, father,
Yeah.
right? It was my family that I wanted to serve, but I had poured so much into doing that well that my complete focus went to the job. That's where all my time was spent. And I thought that, well, if I'm providing for my family, then that's what I'm supposed to do.
Hmm.
But what I was providing was a check. I wasn't
Wow.
providing time. I wasn't providing nurturing. I wasn't providing teaching, right? All of that was being left to my wife. And it wasn't until that job was taken away from me. And at that point in time, I thought that's the worst thing that could ever happen. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And I look back on it now and I consider it divine intervention
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
it caused me to stop and reflect on my priorities and re-establish how I was going to spend my time, who I was going to spend it with, and what I would no longer do, right? And that's where the life balance piece of it came into play,
I love
is
that.
that there was an intentional shift as a result of what I thought was the worst thing that could happen to me that turned out to be the best.
Wow. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that as men, that is one of the questions that I hear all the time is about life balance. I'm not I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I'm not happy with the amount of time that I'm having to spend at work. And then, when I'm not working, we make the choice to go play golf, for 4 or 5 hours on Saturday. And then we wonder, well, why is my wife so angry at me when I get home? Well, it's because now it's down to one day this week that we'll see you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really an understanding of what is most important to us so that we can balance our lives properly and really then start to feel fulfilled through our life.
I absolutely love this. I'm learning as I'm listening, and I've heard that, one of the things that men strive for and need is, the power or the position. They believe that they are what they do. That's very important to them. Just like women are, they think a little different. But I love
It's how we define success.
Yeah. Yes. 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 And I love what you said about life balance, because it is very, very important. And really recognizing what is truly fulfilling and what it is that really makes you happy. And I believe, at some point in your life, you really recognize, if you take the time to stop and see, what's really, really important. And I believe even during this pandemic, it has helped many of us realize that, life, number one, life is so important, and
Right.
not taking a lot of things for granted. So
Yeah. And spirituality is another important chapter for me, because when we come to life balance, and I close the book, I anchor the book with the chapter on spirituality on purpose, right?
okay.
Because I want the book to be, I don't want it to be preachy.
Mhm.
I don't want it to seem that I'm trying to convert or steer or do anything to anybody. And if I open the book with a chapter on spirituality, it might be closed right away by many men.
I understand.
And so my thought was, well, let me just close with it,
Mhm.
my thoughts about it, and some spiritual practices that are helpful to me, regardless of what your religion is, right?
Yes.
There are spiritual practices that we can engage in that are going to help to regulate and calm us and really have a better relationship with our higher power, however we define that.
Mhm.
Right. And when we have a better relationship vertically, my belief is that we can have a better relationship horizontally with other human beings.
That's true.
That changes how we balance our lives as well. What do I want to focus my day on? How do I want to treat people? What do I want to spend my time doing? Encouraging, lifting up, or ignoring and driving by?
So Chris, where can we find Come On Man?
So the book is available on Amazon. You can just go, put in the search for "Come On Man," taking on the challenges faced by men, or "Come On Man," Chris Robinson. It'll pop up, and that's where the primary sales are right now. If you're a person who still likes to go into a bookstore, the bookstores can order it for you. They're not carrying it just because there's not a great demand for it. It's not like a Tom Clancy novel or anything like that at this point. So, but they can carry it. They can order it for you. But most folks are going through Amazon and just placing the order, and you got it in a day or two.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a copy of the cover on my While We Wait page for everyone, and purchase a copy of it. Buy it for a family member or a friend. I was just flipping through some of the pages, and actually, it it's good to me as well. I'm learning communications across the board, be it with my children, with my family.
Communications, gosh, yeah, the communications chapter is a must.
Yes, absolutely. So everyone can benefit from it, because we're all dealing with people, uh, and we're dealing with men on every level. So it's a great read. I strongly suggest it and highly recommend it, and I hope you'll go get it. And I will certainly be pushing it because it's what I do. I'm a promoter, so I will certainly be pushing it even on my personal page because I love uh, that whole piece. I like learning it.
Well, thanks.
How
I
can
hope
we do
it'll,
it better? Yes,
yeah, I
I
hope it'll be
absolutely.
helpful to your viewers, men and women, because you're right. The things that I talk about in the book apply universally.
Yes.
The problem that men have is that we deal with those struggles differently. And I think it's really important and maybe helpful, hopefully helpful, for women to know what their men are dealing with, whether it
Certainly.
be father, husband, son, because we are not going to talk about our insecurities. But
Yeah.
trust me, they are there.
And as a mother, and I have adult children, but I recommend this book to moms as well, moms of smaller children, because the moms have the greatest influence normally in most situations with their sons. So if we can get them in a very healthy place as they are growing up, they will be incredible men. And then they'll be able to teach other men and pour it back in, pay it forward to the different generations. So I highly recommend this book. And that's how I'll be promoting it, even on my page for women. Because a lot of times, I had my children young. We didn't know everything. We learned as we go, and we got mentors, and they helped us with our sons and our daughters. So I think this book is absolutely incredible. I've got one more question, and I have to say, Chris, I want you to come back. I have an idea. I would love you to come back, and I would have a couple of other men on. So um,
I'm
something I have.
in.
Yes, sir.
I am
Yes,
in.
I love it.
That's what it's about, is connecting.
I love it. So, my final question for today would be where you are in your life right now, what can you say to our future generations in, in regards to your book and your purpose? Like, what would you pour into the next generation? Just some final words of wisdom to our
Yeah.
young
I
people.
would say a few things is um, look at your passion. Your purpose is going to lie within your passion. And I would say take care of yourself. Self-care is not selfish. And we've just got to recognize that we don't need to just follow the same path that has been cut ahead of us for centuries and generations. We've got the opportunity here to create new opportunities to develop healthier men who have healthier relationships, become better employees, become better spouses, become better in all aspects of their life. And I think it begins with, values and passions and taking proper care of ourselves. Because when we do that, it goes back to the old adage of, put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yes.
If we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of anybody else. And if we are depressed, if we are irritable, if we are dealing with anger issues, we cannot be the men that we are designed to be.
That's amazing. I appreciate your wisdom, Chris. I'm not even playing now. I'm listening to you and the wisdom that you have. And thank you so much for sharing that. I trust that this segment will reach the correct ears and somebody will at least be touched enough to say, I need more, I want more, I want to transform into just what you said.
That's
Um,
my hope.
yes. Chris, thank you so much. You'll be back really, really soon. I'm going to put this segment together because I love listening to what men have to say because it helps me understand. And I know it's for the men, but it's also for the women as well. So, Chris, I want to thank you. I want to say to my podcast listeners, to YouTube and Facebook, go to Amazon and purchase Come On Man. And the author is Chris Robinson. And I'll certainly be posting that again. Chris, thank you so much again.
Thank you,
I will
Patrice.
talk to you really, really soon, and I hope you have a great and amazing rest of your day.
All right, you too. Take care. God
All
bless.
right, Chris. God bless you. Well, guys, there it is. Mr. Chris Robinson, and his book is Come On, Man. I know it was a shorter segment today, but that was power packed. I'm really, really grateful, and I can't wait to have Chris come back to speak to men because men need to hear from strong men with wisdom. I hope you've been impacted today. You know what I always say, be strong, be wise, keep enhancing your life. I look forward to seeing you back next week at 4:30, same time, same station. Have a great rest of your day. So long.
I stay wise. I live hands my life. I stay strong. I stay wise. I live hands my life. I stay strong. I stay wise. I live hands my life.
Still got you?